What is this shift?
Welcome, welcome, shifties.
Welcome to Shift Hit the Fan. My name is Avra. I'm a resident physician.
I'm Elias.
I'm Soulma, spiritual medicine specialist.
I'm Daniella. I am a human right now.
And I am Steven, and a BQH practitioner and student of life, I'll say.
What does BQH mean, Stephen?
Beyond quantum healing.
Thanks.
I'm glad we got everybody in here today. We've had some really good
Warm-ups.
pre-podcast conversation. They've been pretty awesome. And we will present our card. Higher screen. We're going to go with this one. Share. Here they are. These aren't tarot cards. I don't know what you would call these. What do you call them, Matt?
They're servant cards.
Servant
Right.
cards, and so the 40 servants. You were explaining this a minute ago. What is this?
Okay, so the 40 servants, the purpose, I think, or the intention of these cards, how they serve you as servants, is that it's like, I gave a couple of examples, like, I think it's like working with angels, I guess in a Kabbalistic way, where you're calling on these parts of yourself to come basically run the show, to take over. And it's almost like a declaration. It's the way that the Bible or Jesus says, those who are weak should say that they're strong. So I think it's got that. Like, you can call on these servants to help you. Saying I have my servant, the levitator, back here. Ones that you can use, you can call on them to basically bring that part of you, or call forth that part of you that resonates with that, like if you're going through whatever issues you want to get out of your head, you could use the levitator, you can use the thinker, the contemplator, depending on the quality of thoughts you want to have. Maybe you want to be the observer. All of those would be really great for that. Help me think through this or whatever. So you're focusing on the sigil that is associated with each of these servants, and they're here to serve you, to it's just I just associated with all the different contexts that we have, like, declaring yourself to be, it's you're putting yourself in the future, you're putting yourself in that now. So it's giving a name and a face to that, or an image to that part of you that you want to call forth. If that makes sense. Because I think I repeated a lot of stuff.
Well, what we have from that, we have the thinker. That's our main, and then the moon is the hidden, and then Stephen also got a card for us, and he got the contemplator, which I feel like fits really nicely with all of this. And I think this is kind of cool because, like, we were commenting before, where this brain is very similar to the moon. It has a very similar feel to it. And it's kind of fun to think about the moon being the hidden energy. It's that we usually associate it with the feminine side and the creative force. And the other thing that I was thinking of, especially with this image up here, or this symbol, um, cycles, like it's cyclical. And so there's a creative cyclical cycle to the creative force. There's ebbs and flows to our creation, and times for rest and times to shine our brightest. And then, yeah, what thoughts do you guys have on these things?
With the moon, I also think of the reflection of the sun. What's reflecting? Like, what are your thoughts reflecting? And whatever's like whatever you're hiding from yourself, what's hidden behind the thoughts that are out here in the open, the ones that are obvious and all this stuff. So it's like so perfect that it's the contemplator and the thinker that are associated with that, because it's like, to me, it's showing that it's revealing the thing that's been hidden from you. I think Soulma says this, there's always something hidden, right? And there's always something hiding. So it's like, this is actually bringing forth the thing that you've been focusing on, the thing that you've had in the light. What's underneath that? What's the context for that? What's, it's like, it's almost like your constructive thoughts, your purposeful observation, or whatever it is, your approach to your thinking, your thought process is really effective, and it's showing you, because of that, you're being shown what you've been hiding from yourself. It's like taking your thought process to the next level, and you're actually getting the answers that you're looking for. That's what I get from looking at
I love
that.
that idea of being reflective. I can't think of the musical creative guy right now, but he talks about how like all the creative items that come through our brain, our creativity, it's an idea that's floating off in the universe, and it's either going to come through us or it's going to come through somebody else. So we either snag that opportunity, or we lose it. And I love that idea that we associate creativity or a creative force with the moon because it's a reflection of the creation that we already have within us, the light that is surrounding us. We're able to create something different with it. And the other thing I was thinking of, there's kind of a difference between the thinker and the contemplator, where the thinker is like almost using logic to think through something, to create something new, whereas the contemplator is almost just more observant and kind of just observing what's happening kind of in the universe. And so there's almost that logical form of thinking, and then there's the illogical observance of just contemplating what's there.
Well, I like to bring in the woo woo. And so the thinker for me is like, when we think of thinking, like the thinker could actually be thinking, but a lot of times the brain is just feeding whatever. Now, when we take the time to think, then we have contemplation available to us. And it does bring in the moon in a couple of ways, because that reflection that you talked about, that is what contemplating is called as well. It's contemplating, it's reflecting, it's being in wonder, it's pondering, it's all of those things that look like inactivity, but they're not. They're so powerful. And the thought comes before the emotions. Well, the moon also rules the emotions, or let's say guides the emotions, like it pulls the waters within us to go a particular way, or to be sensitive the way the moon pulls on the ocean tides. And so it kind of comes together that way. I think they go really well. And you mentioned the observer, and so even observer seems inactive, but it's really intentional. So all of that seems so inactive, but that's part of its power. Once again, the hidden energy, all of that is way powerful. Then of course the thoughts create the reality. So if you're thinking, then you're further thinking or deeply thinking, then you're adding more juice to the intention and to the fulfillment of that intention.
I really love, I think, Soma, you said it when you first joined about the contemplator, that it's taking on that different perspective. And one thing I noticed about both of the cards, and then also it ties into the hidden energy, is with both it indicates a raised level of awareness. Both the contemplator and the thinker are thinking outside of the human body. They're both above and gaining a broader perspective. And then I see the moon as just kind of tying those things in together. Like you said, also, Soma, how will we intentionally move with the observer? You know, how will we observe and focus and then also think and analyze and put it into practice and integrate it? And so, yeah, I think all of those are just such beautiful reflections of each other, and they each have their own aspect, which is really amazing.
Yeah, I think what you were saying, Selma, of like the observer could be something that's different. It's almost its own separate card. But observing is almost, it's necessary for thinking and for contemplating. Like you have to be able to sense and take in that information from your environment to even contemplate or to think about it.
That's a really great point, too. What am I observing? What am I putting my focus on and allowing to sink in from my environment? And what am I putting in my environment?
The other, maybe even precursor to contemplating is pause. Once the thought comes through, it's like, it's part of listening. Pause. What was actually just said? What is there to say?
I think, did we talk about this last week? Where it was like there's two things that I learned during my mission because I served as a missionary for my church, as a proselyting missionary. And during that time, there's two things that stuck out to me that I felt like I learned a lot, or it kept coming up, and it's like continued to come up in my life. The first thing is that when somebody had said you listen 99 times and you speak once, and it was just this beautiful thing of like you listen, you observe, and the and then what kind of completes that is in the instruction manual that we had, the study guide, the whatever you want to call it, it stated that as I'm listening to what we would call the investigator, someone who's curious about the church, investigating the church, um, that as I'm listening, I shouldn't think about what I'm going to say next. I should listen and be with that person, and then the words that need to be spoken will be given to me after they speak. And I think that's a beautiful thing with all of this, is that if we're constantly trying to figure out what our next thing is, or we're stuck in that sense of ego where we're trying to define the future, or trying to control the future, control a certain thing, or latched on to, oh, I need to say this thing or be this thing, then we're going to be out of harmony with what's happening. Whereas if we're listening, if we're observing, then our actions and our thoughts and our speech will simply flow out of us the way that it needs to flow out. And that's the same thing that I've done with a lot of like the body work that I do, is listening to someone's body and just letting my hands do the work. And every so often during those sessions, I'll have words come to my mind, and I'll contemplate on those words and just be like, all right, what is this thing that I'm hearing? And then I'll say it, and it has a big impact on that person. Not because I'm saying, oh, I need to say something to this person, or I need to do this. It's, if I'm listening, then it has an impact on the person. If I'm not listening, then it's out of harmony, and they will feel that disharmony in what's happening.
The practice of active listening, where, like you said, you're not supposed to be thinking about what you're going to say next or how that relates to you. You're supposed to be genuinely receiving what the person is trying to transmit. And you saying to listen 99 times and speak once, like, of course, because what can you really learn if you're speaking 99 times? And kind of back to what Avra was saying earlier about that tribe somewhere in Africa that does that we listen and we don't judge circle, where they just speak their absolute truth and there's no response, there's no defense, there's no denying or agreeing with anything. It's just we're all going to speak and then we'll figure out what to do. When she said that to me, I was like, God, that makes so, I almost want to try. It'll probably be years before I can convince them, but I want to try this with my family, you know, because if I could get the whole picture of what's happening and what people are feeling, then it doesn't matter what picture I have up here, right? What idea or what feeling or what to me is a like objective fact. I could say, oh, this is the whole cohesive picture of why things are this way. Now that I've properly listened, 99 times or to each person thoroughly, maybe we can work on doing something from here because now we have all the information. I think a lot of people, when a lot of us, a lot of humans, but I see it a lot on the internet when people are having a hard time with their parents and they speak to their parents, it's hard to do the active listening thing. And not everyone has that skill set or wants to, and we get in our defensive mindsets. And when you're doing that one-on-one, I think it can just feel impossible. You're doing the whole insanity thing. You're doing it over and over and over again. Whereas maybe in these different types of circles, hearing maybe the same truth, like, is this a blue pen? But everyone says how they see this blue pen, then maybe afterwards we could discuss what it is and why and what we perceive it to be objectively here now, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah, what I'm present to now was listening to listening. And actually what you were just saying pointed to that when you said that I want to try this with my family. And I think it's the practical suggestion would be just listen to them and they will see the difference. And then, what unfolds from there, it's, when I say practical, I just mean that's what you have access to now. And the other part, we don't know where it'll go. If it's something new that you're putting in, then there's going to be a new way that they respond. So, and then it's back to how Elias put it, that, and not the example that he gave, but like their speaking will come out of your listening. That gives them room and space to say something new that they hadn't said before. Yeah. So anyway, but I actually was getting that before you even spoke. and then you gave a good example. So thank you.
I just wanted to point out that the thing about the tribe didn't make it onto the recording. So I just wanted to.
It was pre-recording.
It was right as Elias was coming into the call. So the story that I mentioned is one of the first things I mentioned as we were talking, is this tribe that I had read about, their practice. And this is something that I use personally to get out of whenever I'm triggered by unsolicited advice, by people talking without having context of the full story and all this stuff. And I remember this practice that this tribe does, where if there's a community issue, they all get together, the entire community, whoever's involved, and every single one of them will say their truth, like their perspective. And they'll say it like it's the absolute truth. Like, you did this, even if they're accusing somebody of something. Like, this is happening because you did this and this and this, right? And everybody, as soon as they've said all of their thoughts, everything that there was to say about what they think the problem is, everybody says, thank you. That's the absolute truth. That it's like, thank you for saying this truth. And they receive it, like, even the person that's being accused of being the wrongdoer is like, yes, that's the absolute truth, right? It's like, thank you. They celebrate, and they go through every single person in the tribe who has an opinion, who wants to say their piece, and then from that space, they're either coming up with solutions or whatever other thoughts, whatever rebuttals, whatever. And once everybody has said their thing, that's when they call spirit, like, because you're putting everything out on the table. Everything's been said. Everything's been accepted as truth. and acknowledge and validate it. And then spirit gets to step in and say, here's how you're going to call, the hawk is going to help you, or whatever. Is like, this is the process that you're going to do with spirit involved now, with the elements, whatever it is around you that's going to help you with that process. These are the answers. Now you get to say, because now it's like when you clear yourself basically in landmark, right? You say everything that there is to say. The universe is like, I got it. Here's what there is to do, right? So, because this is something that's actually been coming up for me a lot lately, is I've been really triggered, like enraged by certain things that people have been saying. And because I feel like I'm going to be dismissed in the process. So remembering this, that they get to say their truth, their experience of all this, and I'm still honored.
Yes.
In the process, I don't have to lose them. They don't have to lose me. We don't have to lose each other in the process. We all get to express whatever opinions. And, it's like almost putting yourself in the perspective of spirit, the earth, whatever it is, the observer, the contemplator, the thinker, all at the same time, the moon, the hidden energy.
Yes.
This I brought this book up a number of times before, and it's had a huge impact on me. But I just got the physical copies. Someone gave me the physical copy of it. And you can't even, it's backwards, but Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. And he's a FBI negotiator, and just this title itself, Never Splitting the Difference. Like, I've seen this going around in a lot of different ways.
Mm.
There's a lady out there who's working with sex and working with couples in their relationship in not compromising. And I can't remember what she calls it, but she takes out compromise, because this idea of splitting the difference, like you get something that you want, but not the full thing, and I get something that I want, but not the full thing. It tears people apart, and you feel like you lost something. You feel icky. You feel like this didn't work out for me. But this idea of what he brings up in this never split the difference is, you get everything that you want, and I get everything that I want. But the way that we come to that is just like Avra was saying, with that tribal listening. We have to listen to each other. And so his whole thing is, you have to have active listening. You have to bring in that aspect of listening to the person and receiving them. And whenever they want something, you say, all right, we'll solve that. Let's solve that together. And so he goes about saying, so that, like, he's a hostage negotiator. The hostage takers are like, I want $1 million. And he's like, okay, how am I supposed to do that? And he gets them to solve their own problems. And so as you're solving these problems together, by the end of it, the negotiation, you figured out your problem. You figured out, oh, okay, I can't get $1 million, but maybe I can get $5,000 out of this. And by that time, you're happy with it. The hostage taker, the terrorist, or whoever it is, they're okay. This is what I can get. This is what I accept. This is good. And then the people, the negotiators, are finally get the hostages back, or they get whatever it is that they're looking for. And so in both ways, both parties win. And it wasn't the FBI came in and forced them to do a certain thing, and then everyone feels terrible and there's lives lost and
Yeah.
whatever. And the same thing happens with, like he's presenting this. The same thing can happen with marriages, with business negotiation.
Yes.
You present this of, here's the limits, so let's work together until we figure out, like, find that solution, so that neither one of us are splitting the difference. We both get what we want, and we both understand the solution that we've come to.
Yes. Oh, wow. That's a great review. Absolutely first went to my marriage. But when you gave the details, I realized when we were asked to leave the 3/4 acres, which was a paradise, and we were renting there. We'd been there for 15 years, and I was convalescing my leg, and they wanted us out in 90 days. And my husband doesn't like to be where he's not wanted. He would have been out like in 30. And I was like, not ready. So I was literally dragging my feet, I guess. But I just also was standing for that. Hey, I'm not doing that. And I was being relentless, but I didn't know I was negotiating. And then what the universe provided were three, and I didn't think of the three until just now. I didn't say it that way. Three realtors saying you're in California, they will pay you to leave. It's part of what there is. And I said, okay, I don't know anything about that. I'll look into it. So I did. And then, it just went in the way that you're describing, in that I knew what I wanted. I knew what they wanted. They had good reason. We had a great relationship with the landlords, and they were sick. They needed the house we were in for that, for a caregiver. So, yeah, we all had our needs. We didn't know we were doing that way. His daughter brought up that he could have also, when I wasn't getting out within those 90 days, actually, we also did not pay rent at that time. And then she said, we understand that's part of it, and also look into the times that he could have raised your rent legally in this state, and he didn't do that. And we looked at all of that. But yeah, we came to an agreement that ended up being the amount that most people were getting when we considered all of it. So, and then they gave me an option to have it in cash. So that's what I chose. So we did end up each getting exactly what we needed. And I had no idea that would be called negotiating, because I was looking and wondering, how is this going to go? And I wasn't willing to just roll over, I guess. Yeah. So it's really a great example that you gave.
I think with the moon being the hidden energy today, it makes total sense, since the moon is in charge of your emotions, and we're all emotionally driven. That's where you get your energy from. That's where when you have hope, you have all the energy to do everything that you need a day. You can go to the gym, you can go take a walk with your dog, you can do all these errands and stuff. But on the days, at least, for me and every other human I've ever met, on the days that maybe you're a little sad, or maybe you're just angry. Although angry can also be a very good motivator too. But
Yeah.
we're driven by our emotions. And sometimes when you're talking about never split the difference, the hostage, like sometimes I'm the terrorist holding myself hostage, like we all have these things. And sometimes it is just, if we do it for ourselves or we do it for our family, it is just hold space for someone to let out whatever their objective truth is, because a lot of it is really closely intertwined with the emotional feelings, I'm sure for you, Solma, it wasn't just about like the financial inconvenience and the physical inconvenience of having to move. You'd been there 15 years. Like that's home, and we dig our heels in, and we don't even notice these things when it's happening. And that's why when I think about, if one day I could possibly get my family in the same room, and I could possibly find a way to hold like a little circle where we can just let our stuff out, like all these I know that they have so much anger and resentment and sadness, and also like joy. We've had a lot of really great experience, but there's a lot of emotional, I guess, like echoes back there that need to come out with everything that we say, because I'm sure that like the financial settlement, like the aspect of like, here's the time, here's the financial thing, like it's great and it's perfect. But even if they had offered that right at first, because you were still feeling those emotional things, it may not have gone that same way. Sometimes we do need our time to let it out and talk about it and think about how we feel. I don't know. It's the cards feel very on point, and it's really interesting to me, because to me the thinker is a little bit more active and the contemplator is a little bit more receptive, like transmissive and receptive. One's forward thinking and one is reflective. But it takes also so much. It takes so much to be reflective. You have to pull up these energies, you have to process and think about them and really, obviously analyze it to the best of your abilities. And thinking sometimes can also be super passive. Like I can daydream and wander about all kinds of stuff if I have the time and I'm in that kind of mood. So I guess maybe two sides of the same coin, but ultimately run on emotions. Like we have that emotional drive behind us. I don't know. It's also very applicable to the world right now.
Yeah.
It's more than just talking about things. It's letting everyone get out what they have, or else they're going to be carrying around that toxin, that poison that's going to give us autoimmune things, that gives us cancer, that just makes us unhappy.
I want to say the reflective and the reflection, because I was really speaking to reflection, and you brought in reflective is looking towards the past, which is not a problem. That's part of
Yeah.
what happens. But the reflection, it fits right in with the contemplation because it's from the now. You're reflecting what you're seeing now. And you don't have the answer yet, but that's what it's towards. But you do need both. So, yeah.
I like that you bring up emotions and the moon and reflection because if you think about what emotions are, they are a reflection of your values, your beliefs, your just definition. You know, if something happens in life, you will react in a certain way and your emotions will reflect how you feel about that or how you it'll reflect your view and your perspective on whatever the given stimulus was.
Mm.
And so I think the fact that the emotion that the moon is tied in with that emotion, and then that emotion drives action, like you were saying. Like it's if you're angry, you're gonna be driven to do something, and if you're happy about something, you're gonna pursue that more. You know, all these different emotions are kind of the catalyst to what happens around us. And don't know. I think that's a cool, really cool way to look at it.
You reminded me, Daniella. I think that with the thinker and the contemplator, there's just a different intentionality, and one of them's putting the thoughts out, and the other one's getting the context for the thoughts. I don't know if I had already said that, but you reminded me when you said getting your family together or something like that. I had actually done that with my family. I called a family meeting because I wanted to do a year-long program, and I knew this was going to be upsetting for them because I didn't have a car, I didn't have a job, didn't have. I knew that they were already kind of upset that I was investing this money. To them, it wasn't an investment into my personal development and all this stuff. To them, it was just a waste of money because nothing in my life had changed according to how they perceive things. So I said, I'm going to call a meeting because this is a year-long program. This is going to be a big upset. And I listened to every single concern that they had. Just listen to it. Nah, you're right. This is the way that it appears, and here's what I intend to do about it. And addressed every single concern. We stood there for, I think it was like 3 hours with the whole family, like saying, yeah, but you're this way, you're all these things. Basically, all of the family attacking me, right? Saying all the things that they think about me, all their concerns about me, everything. And I just like, yeah, no, you're totally right. I know that I've done this and all this stuff and completely just left nothing unaddressed. Everything was right. Everything was perfect. I forgot that I had done that, when I was talking about this tribe. I was already part of the tribe. I was doing it with my tribe, just to address their concerns, and they were okay. By the end of the meeting, they agreed that, this, not necessarily that it would be good, but that I would do it. I said, here's the schedule. This is, what you can expect of me. These are my promises or whatever, because I really wanted to do the program. I ended up getting my dream job out of it. I ended up, to be able to fund the whole program. I ended up manifesting a ride for from the program for the first part of it, and then I ended up getting my car out of that. Yeah. So it's like you can just call a meeting, is all I'm saying. And be like, I want to talk about this stuff. Let's talk about this. This is why I called you here today.
I kind of feel that speaking to me as well. And honestly, one thing that's come up every time that we've brought that circle up is, and I'm thinking of it like in context of myself, if I were to do it, if I can go into that with the right intention, no matter what happens, as long as everybody is willing to open and honestly share, I'm going to gain such a vast perspective on how everybody's feeling on the issue or in the moment, or, it's such a great opportunity to me. But then I've like really thought about it playing out, and I was like, ooh, I might want to be careful about what the topic is on that, because I don't know if I'm ready for full force on the first circle,
Let's talk about Palestine.
Oh, I would be all the way ready for that on the first round. You could hit me with everything they got.
I guess we should all just kind of hold space for our inner terrorist and the inner terrorist of the people around us. Just let them speak, because sometimes you just have to get it out, And then once we get a good picture of it, then we can start to negotiate. Like, we don't have to split the difference. Let's find a way that we're happy with our resolution, But it all starts with just listening to each other and genuinely receiving what the person is saying. Yeah.
It's a similar process to how like I've started learning and acting with my own emotions in life, and I think so. I just applied to the Twitchy's guide to be a guide for Twitchy's program for this next year, and the question was like, how do you handle like someone who's emotional, or how do you handle this like someone who's in opposition of what's going on or creating an issue, and I was going through the same process of like, yeah, just listen to them and ask them questions and let them solve their own problem through your questions, and find a good solution so that everybody's happy. And then I was like, and it's the same way that I do that, same thing that I do with myself. And I think sometimes it feels like it's a slow process, or like I'm being too passive with myself, or I'm not actually making any change in what's happening. But at the same time, when I've resolved that tension that I've built up around some issue, when I've listened to it, when I've looked at it, when I've heard those voices, suddenly the tension's gone. And then we talk about how a lot of times when you bring awareness around it, it'll resolve itself. Not always, because sometimes the tension is stronger than or the pattern and the conditioned behavior is stronger than just, oh, hey, I have awareness of it and now it's going to be gone. That's not always going to happen, but you can do it over and over again where you listen to those voices. Let's say you have a drinking problem and, oh, I have this need to drink. Where's that coming from? Where can I stop myself right now, take a breath, change my chemistry enough to bring a little bit of awareness around it? And where's that need coming from? How can I cut the chain off and do something different and to redirect the energy? Or can I like I have where is that coming from, and where can I put that energy? And where does that energy want to go? Can it go somewhere other than I need I need a drink of alcohol, or I need a smoke, or I need whatever it might be that we use to as a vice to get past the emotional feeling that's inside of us. And same thing with other people. If we can do that with ourselves, then it becomes easier to do it for others.
It's funny whenever I say I have a drinking problem, it's because I just took a drink of water and it spilled out of my mouth onto my chest. I was like, oh, I have a drinking problem. Sorry.
I do the same thing all the time. Oh.
Especially when I do it in front of people.
Elias, you said something early on. Simply, be with the person while you're listening. That was one of the phrases that you used, and to me, that's the whole key. It's like when you are truly being with the person, that's when they get your listening. That's when they get heard. They feel heard. That's the place that it dissolves or whatever that is. And so the same for you, like if you're with yourself and reflecting and, oh yeah, you did this and you did that, because I can, think of all the things that they're going to tell me. I've got one of those festering conversations or withholds going on right now. And what I'm observing in others is that they're also silent. And so I'll be handling that. But with my husband, and again, you brought up the drinking, and I started just being with it because, yes, he said he wasn't going to, and he hasn't. But I've also been in that place of, well, this is what happens, pointing it out. And no, he doesn't want to point it out, part of the issue. And I said, but I can't not, because I already said this can't be this way. So, I have to say it. But then after I got to say that, I didn't have to say it anymore. I could just let him be however he is when he does. And, it's all, I can see the shift that's happening, that he is being more responsible. That's the whole key. It's not drinking alcohol. It's like going unconscious, not literally, but even just emphasizing the unconsciousness that we all experience every day anyway. And it's happening in an environment of non-drinking workers. So it's all heightened and it's all as it is. And as I completely let it be, let him be, then he can see it. Then he can see what he sees. But before, it stays in the resistance and nothing is seen, and it just gets to stay there.
To touch back kind of on what you were saying, Soulma, about how if he doesn't perceive it to be a problem, right, it isn't. It's not about the actual drinking, right? Like, it's not that you're actually drinking and that's the problem. It's the actions and behaviors and everything that come from it.
Yes.
And to touch back, like, on what you said, Elias, about how coffee, alcohol, maybe marijuana, whatever you're doing to these mood altering chemicals that we ingest to avoid our emotions. Because ultimately, these are, I think, all addiction is a symptom. It's not the actual disease, it's a symptom of low self-worth, low self-value, not maybe prioritizing certain things over, like, if you find something and you find that it's harmful for you, like, say I'm drinking a Coca-Cola every day and my teeth start hurting and I am gaining more weight than I'd like to and my joints start hurting, like, I am clearly valuing whatever this soothes, whatever comfort I'm getting from it, over the health of my spaceship, my vessel, my body. This is the car that I'm driving around every single day. If I don't keep up on the maintenance, if I don't do these things, I think that kind of shows that I'm not maybe planning on keeping it for too long, or maybe I don't care about the condition that it's in for too long. And so that's kind of, I do like when people mention, like, it's not the drinking that is the problem. It's the why behind it. It's the feelings behind it. It's the things that we're trying to avoid. As I don't know if I had mentioned it before, but I stopped smoking a couple weeks ago, and I have cried my eyes out just about every single day since. Yesterday was actually the first day I didn't cry, which was nice. I hope I don't cry about it, but it just happened. It happens out of nowhere. To me, it feels like out of nowhere, because I'm not currently going through something. Like, it's not like someone passed just the other day. This was years ago. It's not like I experienced a rough childhood just last week. This was decades ago. I think maybe to touch back on what you were saying, Avra, earlier, like, things have just been triggering this rage inside of me. And as a non-mean, non-aggressive, non-violent person, rage comes out of me by crying. Like, I get frustrated at my powerlessness, and then I just cry about it. So in trying to process all this, like in thinking that, hey, my car here, my ship, my vessel clearly needs a little bit of time without adding gunk in the engine, you know. Maybe for right now we'll put nothing but clean gas, and just, you know, take care of the engine, whatever. And I don't think that it's something I can't go back to ever. It's just something that I maybe needed to do a little bit less or more controlled, or not as an escape option, because and it's slapping me right across the face every time I start crying, like, wow, I've been avoiding this forever, as long as I can remember. And I I don't think that I've gone through phases where I was like an alcoholic. I don't know if I've ever been like chemically dependent on things, but my drinking has definitely been a problem before. My smoking has definitely been a problem before. Drinking soda even has been a problem before, you know, like all kinds of things have definitely been problems for me before. And I have, you know, shifted from one chemical soothing thing to another for a long time, since I was, you know, in my mid to late teens. And now that I'm spending so much time really clear headed and having to just experience and confront the things that happen, like, I hope and I really expect and I plan for this to be healing in a way that I can go back to things and I don't have them become problems, you know, because like you were saying, Avra, it's not a poison. It can be used medicinally. It's just, do you allow it to become poison? Do you, you know, toxify yourself to the point that it's harmful? So it's, I thought you guys both made really good points about it. It's not the thing that it's how you are after, and or how, what you do with it, and also like, what am I trying to avoid? What am I trying to escape here? What am I being like, well, if I drink this soda and have this really big meal and distract myself, I don't have to do all this work that I'm putting off, you know? That's all kinds of.
Yeah, and you're actually speaking to, you know, I even brought this up, and I remember looking at the reactions of your on your faces, like when I mentioned this man who only drinks Coors Light, never drinks any water, lives in the desert. You guys are reacting from your personal experience of what you think, from your understanding of the world, from your, like, you have all these stories, you have a whole context for what it's doing, but he has a completely different experience with it
Mhm.
in the world. He's highly spiritual. He's super healthy. You can see it the way he carries himself and how he walks around in the world. It doesn't affect him the way that we expect it to from our understanding, from our stories, from our what we've been told, what we've bought into. And even Neville Goddard, who used to never drink, never smoke, he was even celibate. Um, he was told by his teacher, like, you're so good out here that you're good for nothing, because he's like, he was the one that, you know, that, and the thing that I keep bringing up because of Neville's, in the Bible it says something like, Jesus, I think, says that you don't have to worry about what you're putting into your mouth. That's just going to pass through the body. What you have to worry about is what you're feeding your mind.
Mhm.
What comes
And
out?
yeah, it's not what goes into the body, it's what comes out as well. Yeah, exactly. So it's all the context. And if I can take in your perspective, take in my own understanding as well, and observe both, let them both exist as they are, then look at all, for me, all it is, like, if I'm triggered by it, all it is telling me that I still have an issue with it within me.
Mhm.
Like, why can't this thing just exist as it is? Why do I have a problem with it? Where does my problem come from? And then I can get to that, you know, being the contemplator from that. That is being the contemplator. The, you know, why I like the why still, and all of those questions, like, because it's taking my thoughts, and now I get to, like, question those thoughts. Now I get to interact with those, but they're still not me. It's just telling me where I have bought into something that someone else may have said, or something that I've inherited, that something that lives in my cells, however it got there. Could be from the environment, could be from repetition, from programming, from inheritance, but I get to interact with it, knowing that it's not necessarily me, but it could be part of my medicine, it could be part of my magic, or it could be something that needs to be transmuted.
Well, it's a good point of like, what is me? And I think we identify like it, and I've had like I had this somewhat I what do you call it? Existential identification crisis of like, who am I? And and all I can say is that I am me and I exist. And we so often identify with all of these different things that are outside of us. We identify with our thoughts, we identify with our body, we identify with all of these things. And not to say that those are bad, but are, when you look deep down, is that really you? And can you let go of different things? Can you let go that your sibling is not you and that they might have a drinking problem or they might have a some sort of issue that you don't enjoy? Can you let go of that and let them own themselves and let them be their own master and you be your own master and I disidentify from that in different ways. And not to say that you don't care, that you don't love them or that whatever. It's just what you do is yours and what I do is mine. And I'm okay to keep that separate from, from what's going on. And then you start to like master your own body and you start to identify what is it that's actually me and bring more awareness around who am I? What am I? And then you start to have more control and a little more influence in the world around you because you're no longer a threat to somebody else. And so when you are no longer a threat, they want to listen to you more. They want to be with you. They want to be around you. And so you can just cast those little lights of influence.
That reminds me of another thing that I didn't say while we were recording. This is one of the things that came up as I was listening to moms talk about their kids and the experience that they have, that, you know, them observing how their kids are like reacting to a situation versus how the mom reacts to it. Their perspective was, the kid's perspective was like, you don't trust me to be able to do this. You got to let me figure this out myself. And the mom's like, no, I just know that that beam is not meant to carry 30 pounds. That's going to break. That's not that I don't trust that you can climb. I don't trust that beam, right? So it's like in communication, they get to see like where the kids' experiences, like, just don't rob me of my experience. And that's what the thing that I've been getting, that I've been triggered by, why the rage and like the frustration with observing people giving unsolicited advice or them giving me an opinion without context, right? It was like we're robbing them of being their own people, of their having their own, being their own masters, learning to trust themselves. Because so many people, that not only do they have trust issues, but they're so insecure they don't, because they were either overparented or underparented or what, you know, they didn't, there wasn't that communication. They have some sort of missing, some sort of lack uh, of this process, because, you know, this, I even witnessed this, like, and I tried to help with this situation where I would see this mom like controlling every thing that this kid can do, and then would get upset when he was bored, and not like normal kids, when he wasn't allowed to go outside, he wasn't allowed to be playing, he wasn't allowed to you know, and he was like pretty much an only child, right? Like, you know, you have all this control. You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this. Well, what can I do? You know, if I'm going to get in trouble for everything, you know, you've basically made yourself responsible for my boredom as a parent, right? Because you don't trust me, because you have to have it a certain way, right? So it's like that's the I think the tyrant within as well. He becomes his own tyrant in the end, constantly controlling yourself. Like, I can't do this, I can't do that, because that's how you're just conditioned, you're trained. I don't know if I got off point, but yeah, just
Yeah,
reminded me of that.
I also watch a lot of like gentle parenting and more informed parenting and stuff like that, just because I have nieces and I like to be informed of these things. And this one lady, she was talking to her daughter like on this balcony or whatever, and she asked her daughter, "Can you close that sliding glass door so that the bugs don't get in?" And the little girl's, "Yeah, of course, got it." And she went and closed it immediately. And the conversation that was below was just discussing how you don't have to just tell them, "Close that door," it's give them the explanation so that they understand the why. Because I think kind of what you were speaking to, Avra, is when parents are just little kids that grow up, right? And they experience the world that they did. And if they're full of fear, they're also going to raise their kids in fear. And it's not that maybe they don't trust their kid, it's just that they don't trust. My sister can sometimes be a little bit more on the reserve side, and rightfully so, because they are very happy and healthy and very careful. But to me, as being like the oldest daughter and being in charge of the other kids, I was always like, "Nah, go for it, do it, got it, this is how you do it. You just need me to explain it once and you can do this." And obviously, like, that will lead to a little bit more injuries possibly, and sometimes those can also lead to having the fear develop in yourself. So it is a good thing to have a nice balance and to not let your fear transfer onto others. Because I think when I get triggered by something, sometimes, like, sometimes I'm telling someone and I want someone to just listen to me, and their response is to, "Well, why didn't you just do this instead? Like, that's just obvious. Let me fix it for you. This is the answer that you need." And when I have like those experiences like that, it'll trigger things and I get upset, and it's because I'm like, "You think I didn't think of that? You think I can't look back and think about it? I'm telling you how I feel." And like, it's so frustrating, but it's because I think that they're perceiving me that way, but they're also clearly not thinking all these things through, and they're not receiving that I'm just trying to be heard or just talk about whatever it is. And if and like that's yes, there's a little bit of a shortcoming on their end too, but I don't have any control over that. All I have control over is me being like, "Thanks, I appreciate it." And maybe for myself, if this is something that happens often, then I need to communicate to other people, or I need to communicate with them, "Hey, like, this is what I'm trying to do, and this is the response here." We all have people in our lives that aren't active listeners. I'm not always an active listener. I think I'm really good at that, actually. I've always been told I'm a good listener. I've been told a lot that I'm a good listener, but it's hard to stay in that mindset. Sometimes you don't have the energy to listen to someone. It's a constant practice that you have to keep up on because it takes a lot, and it can be emotionally draining too. Which, like we said, emotions are what power you. Like, it's what keeps your body going. Your endocrine system is what you run on.
You just said one of the things that I was like most frustrated with. And while I've been going through this, my own healing process, is like, you didn't think I already thought of that? You're telling me all this stuff. Do you even know who
Feels
I am?
condescending.
It's like you have this huge high view of me, but then now you're talking to me like, like I'm dumb or whatever. Like, I don't think of these things. Bro, come on.
Yeah.
And did you even hear the context of, like, what is actually feasible for me? Like, that was one of the things that I had to work through, like, a lot.
We have to let it go because clearly they didn't think that you thought of it. Like, clearly that didn't cross their mind. And humans, we do this thing where if we witness something from a third person perspective, we're like, "Well, why didn't they just do this?" Like, we do it all the time on video. I see all the comments online on videos where people are like, "That little girl just had to do this. Why didn't she do this?" I'm like, you don't know what it was like when she had, what information she had, how she was feeling, what happened before this. Like, you don't know the context. Get out of here that it's that simple and that easy. We watch movies and we do it, right? We'll be like, "Oh, that's a stupid story. I would never do that." As humans, I don't know, it's part of an insecurity thing, actually, because I think a secure person would be like, "I really don't know how to respond in that situation. Hopefully I'm not in it, and once I am, we'll find out." But it's just we're all just going around triggering each other all the time. That's the whole point.
Another wondering. It's a wonder we communicate at all.
Yeah, facts.
And with that, I think we will sum it up with everybody's their own individual. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And as we get to listen to each other, I think we get to find that beauty with how we each see the world. So,
Supposed to experience each other.
Yeah, be more curious, have more questions.
Allow other people to be.
yeah. And that's what we got. Thanks, Shifties, for joining us. And thanks, Shifters, for being here. And
Yeah,
lots of
shift
magical love
shapers.
your way.
Bye. Thank you.
Love you.